Good morning, dear colleagues. Salam alaikum. Mashdart, whatever. So we begin our third section devoted to Islamic financing at this very interesting event. Last time it is headed by Bekkhan Chokaev, representative by RANEPA, and Magomet Yandiev, assistant professor of Lomonosov University. It's the third time that we meet at this forum. Last time, Mr. Yakupov сказал that it's the second meeting, so when it's the third time, it will be a tradition. And we're happy that it happened like this. One might hear the opinion sometimes that Islamic financing has been discussed for a long time in Russia. Some say 10 years, some say 20 years, but nothing happens and will never happen. One can agree with only one thing. The result, nobody knows the results of these discussions, but you can't argue that what has been happening during the last 2 years can't be compared with what was before. And the fact that we got together here is another confirmation of this fact. Let's introduce our guests. Let us start Behnam Gurbanzade, Deputy Head of Board Representative of ZENIT Group, Yakupov, Prime Minister's advisor in Tatarstan, Alexander Torshin, Deputy Chairman of Central Bank, Renat Edikhanov, Head of Division on Islamic Finance in Delovaya, Russia. Edil Islamov, who is being delayed, is Head of a Cooperation in Chechnya Republic and Director General of RANEPA Group. There are two interesting people present here. Sergei Pakhomov, who has been head of the Department of Municipal Finances in Moscow. He is our colleague, the author of interesting books. And Dmitry Savelev, last year, he initiated a great number of bills on Islamic finance. This year, he is a Deputy of State Duma again. We congratulate you on being re-elected. He works in a different committee, but still he works with Islamic finance, and thank you for coming. Andrei Simonov is the speaker of our first session, professor of Michigan University. Before starting, let's recall what happened in 2016. Let's do like this. We've been speaking a lot about the industry of Islamic finance, and it's high time to sum up the results. And one can say that this industry in Russia does exist in Russia. What is it? In fact, it consists of 7 companies: LyaRiba, Murat, Center of Islamic Financing, Budarib, Masraf, Saada in Makhachkala, Tatarstan International Investment Company, Amal Financial Dome, Center of Partners Banking in Kazan, and Amana Grozny. If we try to sum up the results of operation of these companies, you'll see that they have 50 jobs, up to 1.5 billion of turnaround, 500 million rubles of invested resources, of raised resources. That's the industry of Islamic financing in Russian Federation. It's experts' assessment because there's no special reporting. And some information is not disclosed by companies. LyaRiba company, for one, discloses some of its results and would be interesting in listening to your results. The interesting events that took place in this mini industry which exists in Russia. First of all, Dmitry Savelev, who still works on this topic and will continue working on it with new forces. To a certain extent, one can say that he is supported by Anatoly Aksakov, who occupied the chairman of the Financial Markets Committee. He involved his people working on legislation on Islamic finance. The next question, which was discussed for some time, and we'll hear the details today, is a pilot project launched by Sberbank. Mr. Gref set the objective to make a pilot deal. It has been fulfilled, and we shall listen to the story. Then opening the Center of Partners Cooperation in Kazan. I think we also will hear about the details of its operation. Interestingly, there were many launched new courses, educational courses on Islamic finance. Ilias Zaripov, who is head of upgrading courses, you'll give us the correct name, on Islamic finance in Plekhanov Academy, or Plekhanov University, as it is called now. They do have results, they have students there. Certainly they pay money for this, and you'll tell us about this. There are training courses at the Economic Faculty of Moscow University, in Moscow Business School. There's Master's Department in Kazan University. And speaking about education, the scientific component is also moving forward. Scientific work is being conducted on Islamic finance. Behnam, if we have time, we would like to listen to the scientific work. Last year, 5 agreements were signed with Islamic Development Bank. It was the central bank who signed an agreement. So will tell us what. So Sberbank, so it was Sberbank, Внешэкономбанк, Tatfinbank, and the financial department signed an agreement with the subdivision of the bank, IRT. They were not, active open movement, but last time head of the financial bank, International Development Bank, changed. The structure was changed, and starting with January, activity resumed, and I believe that by mid-year something will start moving. We shall see what kind of cooperation will appear. If you remember last but 1 year, the magazine, the Securities Market, discussed Islamic finance at large. This year they wanted to issue the magazine, but they were sort of late to publish it. So the magazine will be out sometime later. And the last thing I would like to dwell on, if there are any more results, the colleagues will tell about us. I want to discuss the foreign component, Iran. Sanctions have been relieved from Iran, and it might result that Iran, needing finances, will start actually issuing supers. So the habitual world of Islamic finance, which existed for the last decade, I mean the standard of services, might change radically, because Iran has its own standards. The rest Arabic world has IOFA, Malaysian standards, or some other local standards that are widely spread. And this configuration radically changed with the merging of Iran and its huge request, a demand for financing. So these are the results that we start our session with. All the rest I would like to hear from you, and Mikhail, I'll give the floor to you. Everything cannot be listed, cannot be enumerated. I would like to add 2 things. During the Russian Economic Congress in December, we listened to 3 presentations on the topic. and scientific research includes lawyers now. We used to discuss economic issues, but now we discuss legal issues. Kutafin Institute University and SPGU, St. Petersburg University, the legal faculty. There's a special session on Islamic finance. The law and trade, another magazine which has a section on Islamic finance. But there are things which did not come to place. Probably we shall learn something interesting today from the speakers. Now about the rules. We have 8 presentations, and each presentation will last for about 10 minutes. After all presentations, we shall have time for a discussion and Q&A session. So shall we start? Alexander Porfirich, will you start? We are interested to learn what has been done in the central bank during this previous year. And another question raised in our discussion is to learn about the role of central bank in regulating Islamic finance. We have a working group on partners financing in central bank.
Good morning, dear colleagues. Assalamu alaikum. I'm very happy to see familiar faces here. And here we have researchers and practical bankers. First, let me thank you for a highly interesting presentation. The recent year was quite successful and the presentation acknowledged that. However, in life, success goes hand in hand with other things and its troubles and problems. And we had no problems last year. This is a very good sign. Though, of course, this may be in future, because many people are dissatisfied with slow development of our banking. It means that the people dealing with partner banking are quite serious people, and they do not rush and jump with their work. Now, as the presenter has mentioned now, we should gradually transit from statements and declarations to other practical steps. As you know, Vladimir Putin mentioned that Russia is a big Muslim country and a great Muslim country. I think there are many Muslim people in Russia, about 26 million or something. I'm not sure about the accurate figure for this year, and certainly it is changing from year to year. Right now, we're trying to start practical implementation of this work. The central bank recognizes importance of this work. Therefore, in late 2015, we developed a roadmap on developing partner banking and related financial services. Let's sum up results of 2016 and implementation of our roadmap. Well, but let me first say that it will be valid for the year 2017 as well. We are now transiting to more practical and active work. The head of the Islamic Bank paid a visit to the central bank, and it was the first acquaintance, and we also sent a specialist on a business trip there. The second business visit will take place in March or April this year, and they will discuss specific steps and following objectives. We are now exchanging experience, and certainly we should apply global best practices in our work. I think the best way is to learn on other people's mistakes, then make your own mistakes. And let me especially thank heads of Tatarstan Republic. I would like to be fair, but still Tatarstan is the absolute leader in Islamic banking, and they were the main driving engine of this work. Let me thank Chechnya as well, and Ramzan Kadyrov requested the second general meeting to take place in Chechnya. This is a very hospitable republic, and we were there last year. We are planning the next visit, and we are just deciding on some mutual specific steps. What's the vision of the central bank? This is a complicated issue, and there are two approaches. Let me start with the first one. I partly share it. I think that the current Russian legislation allows for developing partner banking services, but probably some specific instructions may be needed, and they will be issued by the central bank. Mr. Savelyev is present here, and he is smiling right now, but I'm afraid that soon he will no longer say hello to me, because he has put forward so many initiatives, and we must really proceed with them. Many times he mentioned the need to change the current legislation. Right now, the Parliament and deputies of the State Duma are actively discussing that. But still, they are not really fast to take up and to put into life all these initiatives. Probably they think that it's not the most topical issue now, or they think that these partner banking services are not mature enough. Anyway, however, we all know that Russia is a multi-confessional country. We have 4 traditional religions, 20 and 26 variation and non-traditional religions and confessions. Some of them are developing more rapidly than traditional confessions, and we know that partner banking considers basic principles of Islamic finance. But also these services are offered by non-Islamic banks and financial institutions as well. Well, recently, for instance, in Turkey, or recently I was in Kyrgyzia, and they do it as well. Azerbaijan, the National Bank of Azerbaijan, in the past had a specialized section on partner banking, but now they have cancelled this work. I hope that they will resume it. And let me get back to the previous idea. I think we should target the interests of consumers, and the services that we offer should really be attractive for all citizens and common people. Unfortunately, the crisis has many negative impacts on the population, but many banks suggest that people should invest into banks, open deposits, and possibly they will not gain any profit, but at least save their money. So I think that we should explain things to people and to raise awareness and of our work. people should understand what this banking and services are about. But in general, Islamic religion and its development in Russia and globally is a very huge and various subject. We know that some war parties and other forces are accusing Islamic religion of all possible sins, including terrorism and so on. And they don't differentiate, and I tried many times to raise awareness and to explain things about Islamic banking. Some years ago, I heard that Islamic banks fund terrorism. I was really shocked, and I mentioned that I was a member of anti-terrorism committee, and certainly that was out of the question. I also gave some many examples from practice and from my practical work. Certainly they are not involved in any terrorism financing, so we should also give due consideration to these ideas and opinions. Right now, the central bank is restructuring, and including the sector of Islamic finance, and I hope we will not be under pressure of governors and regional authorities. Also, I hope that we will be able to establish proper relationship with the banking supervisors. In any case, I think the coming changes will be positive for the development of Islamic banking. I think you expected some specific information on our roadmap. I will be happy to answer your question. And one more thing. So far, the central bank is certainly working on that, but we are only preparing answers to most topical questions. We plan to elaborate specific documents in the second half of this year, and I hope that Mr. Savelyev will be lobbying our ideas and activities in the State Duma and put forward some legislative initiatives. Your questions, please. Thank you so much, and I hope, and in the end of our session we will have some time for Q&A. Please memorize all your questions and you will have chance to answer them. Let me mention something which I know from my experience. Tatarstan, I think, is the most advanced republic in Russia in this area. So could you please give some recommendations to Russia? Good morning, and I would like to welcome you all. I'm very happy to see my colleagues here. I can see many familiar faces, and we have worked together, I think, for 6 or 7 years. Many of them visited Kazan, and especially the activists of this movement. I also was quite active to develop our work in Tatarstan. I was told that we have time frames and limits. You can have a look at my presentation at the website, but I will just brief you on my ideas. I would like first to thank Alexander for his introductory remarks. You really set the right pace of our discussion, and you raised very topical and burning issues. Thank you so much. So I hope that's a good starting point. Let me now start my briefing. I tried, certainly I have lots of materials, but and I discussed it with the Magomet beforehand. We have about 10 minutes time limit. That's why I try to have 1 or 2 minutes per each page. Here's my presentation. This is a chart which is based on experimental information. It was jointly developed by ICD and Thomson Reuters. Probably many of you know ICD company, which is a subsidiary of Islamic Development Bank. They have issued Islamic Financial Indicators report for 3 years, and this is a chart taken from their report. In 2016, they covered 124 countries. That's really a huge number. It means that now people are paying more attention to what we do. We all realize the situation with traditional religions. We know basic principles of traditional religions, and they all, like Christianity and Islam, have the same views on usury. Usury is a big sin in all major religions. We recognize that, and we try to be wise. We recognize its importance. We now, people all over the world are paying attention to this issue. This chart represents all CIS Islamic countries. Here you can see 7 countries located in Central Asia, and also Russia and Azerbaijan. And each the compilers of this report assigned ratings to all countries. You can see ratings indicated in brackets. So the rating of Azerbaijan is 35, of Kyrgyzstan it's 43, and it's 85 for Russia. This year, I think the ratings will change. As you can judge by the figures, Russia has made a big move already, and I hope you will continue doing so, and other countries too. You can compare the figures for 2 years, 2015 and 2016. It's quite transparent, and these figures speak for themselves. The next slide is dedicated to experience of Kazakhstan. Let me give you some background information on the development of the private sector in Kazakhstan. In fact, it started in 1992 when Al-Baraka Private Bank was set up as instructed by a president of Kazakhstan Republic. And the pioneer of the sector in Kazakhstan was Saleh Kamel. As you understand, this was a transition period to market economy and private business. The next stage started in 1995 or 1997 when Kazakhstan joined Islamic Cooperation Organization, and we opened a regional office in 1997. This branch is located in Almaty. In 1995, Texaca Bank was established in our republic. The second name is LyaRiba, which means no usury. And This was a joint stock bank with shareholders from the USA. They developed actively leasing services, partner banking, and also they worked with the investment deposits and other tools. But on the verge of the crisis, the bank was acquired by Kazakhstan shareholders, and right now this is a bit. In fact, it's a big chain, and recently I met some people working for the USA branch.
So he has a lot of experience. The next stage was when we started to work with the private sector. I was the first to raise this topic in Kazakhstan. I was made a representative of the Islamic Development Bank in the country. I worked with many clients. The Islamic Development Bank, and we are going to discuss it later, is an interstate bank. It's a multilateral development bank like IBRD, like the World Bank or Regent World Bank, but operating on the principles of Islamic law. The bank provided a credit line to Kazakhstan Bank of 150 million, and three major banks, Kazkommerts Bank, Halib Narodny Bank, and BTA Bank, have been actively working with these credit lines. In 2003-2008, markets went out into private capital market. They received syndicated loans for 5 companies, for 5 banks. The central bank does not provide this information, but as a practitioner, I know that there are about 7 banks who participated in this. But you know, the crisis hit the banks very strongly. As you know, we have 4 banks defaulted, and unfortunately they stopped their work. But at the same time, Islamic banks work on the principles of trust. If you work with Western banks, there will be a lot of covenants, and they will suck out everything of you to get the money back. Especially Islamic banks work on the principles of trust, and the banks could not return the money once they defaulted. It was a sad experience when major investors who invested into Murabach syndicates, and I met with many of them, and tell you honestly, being co-chairman of the Interagency Working Commission on the roadmap, and I met with many of them. Interesting. I shall be brief. In 2003, we had the annual meeting. So the green color shows the optimistic things. I shall tell you about the first private client of Islamic Bank in Kazakhstan, BOGV Corporation, with Mr. Bogdanets. I worked with him. He borrowed money 3 times in our bank and repaid the money in time. There is the notion in Islam, salab, which is something cannot be rationally evaluated. And this person is so mature in this relation. He was used to be a small farmer, but now he is 500,000 hectares of land, and he was surprised itself. Everything went, as an ice. But as soon as I turned to normal banks, to common ordinary banks, they just nearly destroyed me. Yes, the banks actually have consumed all his money. They ruined him. The esteemed moderator shows that I'm running out of time. I'll try to be brief. I will not describe the current state. I have two last pages that I would like to discuss. Here we have a slide, the development of partnership industry in Kazakhstan with regulation and institutional development, showing the pluses and the minuses. I will discuss in more details, showing recommendations, including my recommendations as a practitioner. These are issues about regulation and interaction with international organizations on three aspects, so you'll see specific recommendations. What is suggested? We would like the Central Bank of Russia and all practitioners, members of the working group, should choose the model. The 40-year-long practices of Islamic banking has 4 established models. It's very important to concentrate on the directions which have already been sort of worked over. There is an international regulator who works with central banks, and they use this experience very well. So it's very important to choose the model. Next is the law. I saw the draft law on the Financial Partnership Organization. I was delighted, but I reread it again, and I liked it very much as well. Yes, the ideologization is necessary. In CIS, we have the same mentality. And many things about the development of Islamic banking should have, since we have the same experience, we should share it. It's not only an example of Turkey, which is successfully developing Islamic banking, showing good results, like 15% from the financial sector. There should be one law. I suggest that Russia should not follow Kazakhstan's example. We established law on the case-by-case basis. Sorry. If you have questions, I'll describe it in more detail. So as for taxes, taxation is the most important issue for our development. In Kazakhstan, we're stalling because of the unresolved taxation issue. So there's a lot of discussion, a lot of disputes, but there are no practical tax mechanisms. As you know that Islamic finances work on the trade basis, trade plus basis, and operating for a long time. It's using markup. In our law, markup is not a VAT tax, but the body of the credit is. In the ordinary bank is called the body of the credit, and it is you have to pay VAT on this. We try to explain it, but they sell. You are selling something. If there is a sale and purchase transaction, we cannot agree with your interpretation. You have to change the mentality, the viewpoint. Last year we had something positive when President Nazarbayev spoke about the implementation of the precedents of British law in the framework of the International Financial Center. Another thing which is also very important, there are a lot of advantages in a partnership bank which are non-existent in an ordinary bank. And I would like to say a lot of thank you for educational factors, for mentioning educational factors. The better education, the better for the entire economy. And next, mechanisms of risk management are standard. and they've already been discussed. The next method, interaction with international organizations. You have specific proposals here. I think it's very important. Why Russia shouldn't discuss participation in Islamic Cooperation Organization? We are observers. In Mozambique, for instance, only 10% of Muslims. In Russia, 26 million. It's 15%. And Mozambique is developing pretty well. Certainly you can claim it's an African continent. But let's pay attention to economics. They say it's economics that is important to us. So 3% somebody is saying. So the 57 country, Guyana, with 0.5% of global production, has become the member of ES. As for institutional development, the central bank, the working group, and the federal government keep working on this. So you should describe the law of partnership, Islamic relationships in your law. Gaidar knows Malaysia pretty well. An example of Malaysia is very good. When Mahathir Mohamad, starting from 86 till 91, had only one Islamic ban. We have the same situation. We have only one ban for the 7th year. But the command was done to issue a no-interest loan. Immediately 20 banks switched on, and 14 banks remained, and they became sort of the flagships of Islamic banking. It's a very good example of Malaysia. Thank you very much again. This is the final thing. This is the last book that we published, 2 textbooks that they were published in Kazakhstan. This is a manual, ethics, and Islamic financing, the other book, practices and regulatory issues. I think your students in Russia might be interested in them. Our Russian colleagues, Madina is present here, the author of the first chapter. There are people from Kazan who participated, Renat Kabasov, Galmahitov. So I'm very grateful to all of them. I think we produced a very good, serious book. And when you see it, when you read it, you will be grateful to the authors or come up with some criticism or compliments. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Erlan, for your interesting presentation and for answering the questions. Let's go over to the next presentation. The main bank of Russia, Sberbank, is the global player in our financial system, has started to get involved deeply in Islamic finance. A deal was closed quite recently to finance the company. There is cooperation with regions in pilot projects. And I know that Sberbank is studying the possibility to conduct structural transactions to involve investments from Arab countries, but it's only the top of the iceberg, because something more global might lie underneath. Probably we shall find out. Behnam, please. Good morning, dear colleagues. Salam alaikum. First of all, I would like to thank the organizers. It's a great honor for me to be in Presidium, sitting next to professionals. A special thanks to Alexander Porfiryevich, Dmitry Ivanovich, thanks to you, special thanks to you for helping us, not leaving us alone in our struggle. As for Sberbank, as the leading financial institute of the Russian Federation, yes, it's only the beginning. We start with reconnaissance, so to say, and reconnaissance, first of all, covers legislation and the tools that might be implemented without changing legislation, that will identify the segment which needs attracted raised investment and subsequent development. Our first deal was a pilot deal with a leasing company. Alas, I cannot disclose the details because the transaction has been signed, but information is not disclosed because some additional documents have to be prepared. Well, it's in full conformity with Sharia's law. It has been approved by Sharia committee, which is the main thing for Islamic financing. I will not give you the economic figures. Sharia's committee is sitting in Bahrain, is certified in Yofe, and is one of the leading Sharia's committees operating in the post-USSR state. They structured the deal in Azerbaijan, they work in Kazakhstan, and I think that at the end of January, there will be an official signature in Tatarstan with participation of the government and representatives of Islamic Development Bank. Let me reiterate. So we tested the possibility of Mudarba utilization. Mudarba is divided into limited, unlimited. We use the limited Mudaraba, and we tried to do it in conformity with our legislation, including tax issues, in accordance with the civil law, and with the banking legislation. We did not violate any rule, but we did a lot to design a new quasi-Mudaraba product, which in terms of economy, does not run counter to any Russian legislation and is in conformity with Sharia's requirements. The deal, the transaction, was signed with a Tatarstan company operating in Islamic leasing, and as of today, they are finalizing the agreement documents. Another thing I would like to add, the problems that we come across. First of all, legislation. Legislation of Russian Federation does not allow us to introduce partners banks or Islamic banks in full volume. If you want to conduct some preventive operations like open current accounts on the basis of banks, Islamic banks, it's easy. But if you plan to provide funding for leasing, the banks cannot do it because if HR profit is not exempt from VAT, that increases the cost of transaction to the client, and the client will have to pay over 35%. But the business, no business can sustain such a tax. No business is capable of doing so. So if we do not want to come across the problems that, like in Kazakhstan or Azerbaijan, we should create an environment where an Islamic financing or partnership banking will grow and develop as a startup. So we should provide seed capital, ensuring its growth, and as a result, it will become a full-fledged model. We have the Malaysian experience, the experience of Dubai and Qatar, in Singapore, which have been actively developing. So everything started with windows in ordinary banks, Islamic windows, but it's only a beginning. So we shall develop the general banking model, then we shall switch over to special legislation. Probably we shall set up a special center. The International Financial Center in Astana is a very good platform to develop alternative investment, alternative financing, partnership banking. As for me, I see the development of the center not only as based on Sharia principles or Islamic principles. It should be center for development of Islamic economy, including everything, starting with standards and up to regulatory instruments. This center should embrace all sectors. There's a great need of halal products in this country, and there's a lot of clients who would like to import meat from the Russian Federation, pharmaceutical interests. They want to import chicken and other game, but there are no Sharia compliance standards which is adopted at international markets. For instance, there is a center in Emirates which designs standards for the Emirates. It's called Halal Center. Malaysia has also a center designing standards for Malaysian market. Some other organization works in OIC countries. A new player is entering the market, Iran. Sanctions have not been fully lifted from Iran, but the next step is relieving Iraq of financial sanctions, and Iran will become a full-fledged player with its principles, with its own views, and it will support its own standards. Russia had Iran as a strategic partner for many years, and I don't think that this segment should be treated separately from Russian economy. We have a need to raise investments, and partnership financing can become the basis for attracting alternative investments.
And this could be an alternative to raise investment in Russia. I have been for 20 years in the banking sector, and I suggest that we should start with developing big corporate sector. We shouldn't start with retail, and if we focus on retail only, on business like plastic cards, a jar purchase of cars, we will just restrict ourselves, and we're not ready for this work because so far we don't have a basic model, and I suggest that we should launch development of Islamic finance, and we should take the first step by establishing this model. However, this should be an economic model applicable all over Russia, not only linked to Islamic religion, but however, it should be accessible to all. However, similarly, like mosques are open to all. However, it should be compliant with the Sharia laws. That was the situation in Azerbaijan. Local population was represented by different nationality. However, they prefer Islamic banking services because these services were beneficial and accessible to all, and also most were digitalized and very user-friendly. I am trying to be brief, and the second issue I'd like to mention is Islamic Banking Conference in Bahrain. It took place in 2016, and we participated. We represented Russia and our republic. We had a chance to talk to representatives of Bahrain Bank, Saudi Arabia banks, and all were interested in new opportunities in Russia. Russia now is ready to cooperate with Islamic investors, including Persian Gulf countries. That was the main message of our discussions. Most of these people were bankers, but still we should give more opportunities to other structures too. Banks, and I think still that bankers should play the lead in this work. Bankers feel other sectors very well, and they have access to international financial institutions and investment, which means that, in short, they can enlarge the financial portfolio and capital and investment volume. We should involve in our work different Muslim countries and Muslim market. For instance, in Ingushetia and all Tatarstan regions and other places. And I think we should expand geographically, involve all, and not focus on sectors only. This is a vision as a banker. And the second issue of importance is education. We should properly train specialists and adequately fund this work, invest into developing the educational sectors. And finally, let me mention the importance of cooperation with the Central Bank of Russia. I think that Islamic banks should act as consultants in this work. And also, I think our second goal here is putting forward legislative initiative and drafting new acts. We should forward them to the State Duma. And we have some ideas now on sukuk, on plastic cards and other banking products. But we should go further than that and develop a full-fledged model which will be ready for use, and it should be fully operational in Russia. I'm not sure yet whether it will be a part of the savings bank strategy, and possibly it will also go digital, and the services will be accessible to all from mobile devices. Thank you. Thank you a lot. You have mentioned education, and let's then give the floor to Ilias, who will continue this subject. What is your experience here, and what would be your recommendations to other universities and educational institutions? Thank you so much. Let me start by saying I will skip into the introductory slide. However, we can see here that I'm involved in all activities. For instance, I participate in developing partner banking in Russia, and I'm an expert of Russia's Association of Islamic Financing Experts. And finally, I'm leader of the educational program at Plekhanov University, one of the oldest economic universities in Russia. It was founded in 1907, and it has numerous branches spread all over Russia. Recently, we launched the first pilot program on Islamic financing. We have few students so far for different reasons. Probably it's because this work was started late 2016, and there were some organizational problems too. We had to adjust curricula and so on. So the launch of the program has been postponed till November. But in any case, it has been confirmed, and we intend to continue. We have already tested the program and granted the first certificates. We have tested new methods like distant learning, and for instance, students were trained by 2 experts located outside Russia, and many experts of those present here were willing to help with the program, and it was very pleasant. Those present here, as you know, are not only after profit, but also sincerely willing, devoted to their work, and are willing to put it forward. That's the case with me and with many colleagues I know. And indeed, the commercial component is not the main part, is Islamic financing. It's not a priority. That's why Islamic financing is indeed strong and persistent. So also it is sustainable, though the commercial part is important as well. Considering that we have time limits, and you can see this presentation at the website, I will be brief and go fast. What are the main, let me outline the main benefits of Islamic financing. Here's a brief list. One of the main ideas is reducing the threat of terrorism. Some people have mentioned that today, including Mr. Savelyev, a respectable deputy, who is also a member of the Security Committee. This is indeed so. And this benefit is due to transparency of Islamic finance, which in fact impedes terrorist financing, and this becomes impossible. Though, as let me quote one old Russian movie, well, this may happen, however, in neighbor district somewhere, but never in our district. Well, I fully agree, and this must, this should be traced by the banking supervisor or the regulator. And by the way, Sharia compliance process includes this component as well, and Sharia committee should monitor the situation. Now, here are some impediments of Islamic banking development. Well, the first impediment is the lack of legislative standards, as well as organizational and accounting standards, low awareness of retail and corporate clients. Then the next impediment is unwillingness of Russian financial institutions, including banks, and banks are very conservative. So most of these banking specialists, unless they have enthusiastic supporters, like my neighbor, left side neighbor, They're conservative and they're unwilling to take up these new initiatives and launch projects like that. So this is a very good exception, as in my left-hand neighbor's bank, but other banks were really unwilling. And I have briefly here, this slide enlists partner finance projects in Russia and the main milestones in 2016. I have mentioned some of them already, but let me emphasize one event. It's not so popular now, but some people know. Now, new Islamic Business Association is about to be established. No, it has already been established, but it will start operation in early February or probably in mid-February. So, as my colleagues are prompting, yes, it already exists and it supports our sector. This is a picture of a Russian university named after Plekhanov. It's training conditions, and this is what we need. I think, do you mean the mosque? No, I mean the whole image. That's what we need. And we need to define some targets and strategic goals. I personally think that during the first 5 or 8 years, the share of Islamic finance is to reach 8%. Now, so I think when we gather at the next Gaidar forum, we will acknowledge that. I think our meeting today is quite favorable in terms of Feng Shui principles, and also it is quite Sharia compliant. I also, and the next slide, it indicates the need for the comprehensive federal law, which will release all restrictions on these activities and create some legislative immunity. It also will reduce risks related to high uncertainties. And so, in order to reduce risks, we should launch several pilot projects in particular regions of Russia: Tatarstan Republic, Dagestan, and Chechnya. And Ministry of Finance of Russia should participate in this work, probably develop some regulations and standards. Let me proceed with my slides. I don't want really to take up too much time. Therefore, let me switch to our main goal. It's not a Photoshop picture, but it's all real pictures. The development of partner finance in Russia is a goal of state importance. Indeed, it's a matter of state significance, and therefore I would request you to think about that. You should realize that it's really a state matter And I would like to, in particular, to address young people and students. You are very welcome to participate in this work, to study. And in 2016, I hope we will intensify our activities. Therefore, let us work. That's the end of my presentation. Thank you. And yet another question to discuss is regional experience, including companies and state governmental and state institutions. We have several regional representatives here, and now let me please give the floor to Murat. What memories do you have of the past year?
I'm glad to welcome all of you here. First of all, I would like to thank Allah for the possibility to speak at this event and congratulate all organizers and co-organizers who care about this topic. Well, I was like to thank Mr. Savelov, but I thank Alexander Porfiriyevich. I'm just in time. It's nice that people who do not believe in Islam deal with this issue. There are representatives of Chechnya, Tatarstan, and Dagestan. Still, this topic is developed by non-Islamic people. I'm not a good speaker. I have a lot of questions and have very little time for my own presentation. And if somebody has questions about the companies that we have in the Republic, starting with I know all of them, starting with heads of these organizations and then all of the employees, financial house Masraf. We do not employ 50 people in Russia. Only in Makhachkala we employ about 100 people working in Islamic financing. There is one subsidiary with 15 to 20 people, Stenva Sada, which opened a branch as a window in a traditional bank. They are represented in a chain, one of the chain stores. There is a company providing digital technology, Amanat company, dealing with Islamic financing, and LyaRiba-Finance. I will give you some figures now. I will combine my presentation with answering the questions. When you speak about partnership banks, it's not clear what kind of profit will they get. But let me give you some figures. Our esteemed Sberbank pays 5 to 6% interest, and they do not earn 10% to pay 5%. But nobody studies this issue. Nobody reproaches them of this. But let me give you the figures of my company. Don't think I'm boasting, but otherwise I cannot describe the good words about this Islamic finance. The delinquency plan in December was only 5 people, and now it is reduced to 2. If there are several thousand clients, we have no delinquent payers. There is not a single person who owes money and does not return it. As for profitability, interest on deposits, starting from 2011, the profitability was not lower than 11%. There are few banks in Russia that can boast this. Masraf and other banks might boast 15% profitability. If you look at the major banks, can they show such profitability? As for bankruptcy of clients, it's very important who is our clients. For a bank, in terms of profitability, they want to the client to be in a sad position because it will increase profits. In our banks, we only had 2 such clients because they were incompetent in the problem they worked in. As for social sphere, Islamic finance are directly related to this sphere, and Dagestan takes the first place on charity per capita of population. We have a number of charity funds which look after needy families. Every orphan is taken care of. We cooperate in some fund which takes care of over 300 orphans or families who are in a difficult position. It's not just a one-time event. We do it on a monthly, on a yearly basis, providing food and clothing. So look at the statistics of people who complained about the services of our bank. So far, we did not find such clients. If you know such people, you can tell us. As for our clients, bank workers do turn our company more and more frequently, and they come several times. But our people working in our bank are unlikely to turn to traditional banks. So these products are not only created for Muslims. So Western Muslim banks have about 10 to 20% non-Muslim clients. We are represented in the retail sector, occupying 25 to 30% in Makhachkala. 3 years ago, we started with 0. And now this figure is going up. In major shopping centers, there are 3 banks, traditional banks, and the other side there's LyaRiba. If a client comes, the banking manager says, our conditions are better. If the mom of the client comes, they will say, go to LyaRiba. So, and all employees of the traditional banks are all our clients. You see that the interest rates have become more expensive. It is not so. It was not so in LyaRiba. There was not a single trial concerning our company. We did not sue any single client because all debts were returned out of court. We did not use any force to make them pay the credit. No single employee has been fired in our bank. And there is no interest installment for needy families. Well, representatives of other companies might add something else to this. Therefore, the Islamic financial sector should be in the vanguard of our economy. As for another figure, you said that the existing laws are sufficient to allow Islamic banking. I do agree with you, and this is proven by the existing companies. But it's sufficient for just gathering here like this and telling each other how good we are. But if you speak about a serious business, what serious business can we speak about if there is no bank? So no supervisory bodies. I joke that we cannot be deprived of our license because we do not have a license. So out of 35 traditional banks, 28 lost their subsidies. we understand that it's not, it does not concern us. It was rightfully said also that we're not touched upon by the crisis. So what if there is 100 banks and one is closed? There's nothing terrible of it. So 28 banks have been closed in our republic and everything is okay. But if one Islamic bank is deprived of license, that will be sad. It will not mean that Islamic finances are bad, but that will mean that some fault has been found. You can always find a fault with anything. It might entail different cases and trials. We are experienced people. We know how it is done. I keep saying that we're not go into microfinancing. What we go into is nano financing. Because the volumes we offer do not deserve a lot of attention. Not because we do not want to be bigger, because we do not have any other possibility. About the causes and reasons. First of all, it's our passivity, because we, in our region, have been trying to make people do something. To adapt the Islamic funding to the conditions of Dagestan Republic. This document has been signed, but that was the end of it, because everybody kept saying, Murat, turn to me, Murat, develop, design something, write something, and then I was to implement it all. It will take a lot of time to move forward. Now, as for demand, I think I'm overusing my time. In order to assess the demand for a service, a product, or event, first you have to show to the person. If you are to assess the demand for Tesla cars in Makhachkala, it will be zero. We have no cars, we have no fuel stations, we have no service. First, you have to build fueling stations, shopping centers. The same with Islamic banking, because there are no banks and people are sitting still because they are afraid of supervision, of inspections, and the organization will be closed because you can always find fault with anybody. So that's the lesson we learned. So I believe that, first of all, you have to open such companies before coming up with laws. We know how laws are adopted. It takes a lot of time to get an ideal law describing all episodes and instructions. That is too long. It's like when somebody is cutting the tree, but the axe is obtuse and he can't. Why don't you sharpen it? I have no time because I have to cut the tree. I think we should set up several dozens of companies. We have charters, send charters and our documents to our colleagues from Tatarstan, and when we have a dozen of such companies, the issue of regulation will develop by itself. Unfortunately, we have only 1 or 2 companies, 2,000 or 3,000 clients. We regretfully mention this. It's not a scope for a bank. We do not ask for privileges. I'm against a law which, as you said, Ilias, which has legislative, what is the word that you used? Immunity. I'm against having any immunity. I'm for equal conditions for exit to the financial market. When there are 2 runners running together and one has a stone ball attached to his leg, it's not just. Let's have an equal approach, equal treatment, and then the figures I mentioned would become a reality. I showed you this figures. You can make sure that they're real, and other companies will confirm it. Let's just imagine, look at the population of Russia. When they see these figures and compare it with the collectors who burn people using iron to make them return the credit, what will they choose if they make the comparison? Anyone will choose our type of financing. If you give me another 40 seconds, I would like to show audio recording describing what happened to a person who took a loan. If we do not give me time, I will try to answer some of your questions. Okay, okay, thank you for attention. You mentioned something about the partnership bank. I would like to give the floor to Renat Edikhanov. Renat, the Center of Partnership Banking was opened in March. What are the specific features of it? Why is it different compared with the bank which existed before? Is there anything special about it? What are the structures that are included into this bank? Let me tell a few words why and how, and answer a question. Back in 2010, we started to open Amal. It started functioning in 11. The original concept of Amal was some infrastructural companies with one umbrella brand, which existed in a branch with limited functions, only cash payments. So money was raised not in the credit organization, but in Bulgar Bank. Not in the framework of a credit organization, but in the framework of current legislation for a limited liability society, in the framework of the Consumer Cooperation Law. It was a financial center which could accumulate money. That's the only form of organization allowed by law that have the right to attract money and is not reporting to anybody. So all transactions were made outside the banking legislation legal field. Now it continues to function despite the problems with Bulgar Bank, which was sold. The previous owner left for Yaroslavl. All settlements were transferred to another bank. The Center of Partnership Banking was opened in March 2014 in Tatarstan, and Tatfond and RT developed a concept to design products which would be combined with traditional products that would work with the bank's branch. The funding was to be raised directly through the credit organization. If you look at the figures, Amal for the 5 years has over 2,000 clients. The Center of Partnership Banking that started developing very actively, they had a 25% a month growth with over 500 clients. The Center of Partnering Bankers developed the procedure for transactions for infrastructural companies using session agreements. That was the first in Russia agreement with funding directly through a credit organization. But session agreement has some drawback. The portion that belongs to the bank has to be VAT paid on it. So we took some actions which will result in the continued operation of the group of companies, and still there will be 2 companies as the CPB as the pilot project in the framework of the roadmap. As for prospects of partnership finance development regarding the structuring of transactions and funding, the Center of Partnership Banking, if they use session, there are 2 directions that might allow the bank to implement such transactions without having to pay tax. This is the analog of investment loans used by Amal. There's a question to the regulator about the instructions and the separate regulation for reservations in such transactions or provisions. This the loan agreement with interest percentage, interest. But if it is implemented into the trustee agreement, then you can implement a product which is not directly passed through the bank's balance sheet, but actually the guarantee with the floating interest rate as in Amal allows us to structure funding agreements. The only thing that the bank should an operation company attached to it, leasing or a trading company, which will conduct this transaction.
And I think that's a possible format of development. As to trust management, which has been mentioned, and I have spoken about it at many forums and work groups. Currently, banks do not have any restrictions on trust management. It is allowed in compliance with the instruction of the Banking Committee number 163, and now everyone has confirmed it, and the banks are welcome to do that. But the only concern was expressed by Mr. Gaznov. And because there is no standard procedure to close this and terminate this trust management agreement if something happens to the bank. But still there are no reserves and no standards. And there's a big discrepancy between the interest earned by the banks and by the bank and clients. We know about this big difference, and this trust management agreement could be very beneficial here because it would neutralize this difference. And now also there are new funds, and there are new investment funds, and they work on a contract basis, and there are unit funds also, and they can make contracts on sales and purchase. But we should regulate profit tax. We have a special work group in the Central Bank of Tatarstan, and jointly with Delovaya Rossiya NGO, we have developed a proposal. It's on commercial loans, and this would allow to restructure murabaha contracts or deals. This the earned interest may not be subject to the VAT. So far, this has not been enacted, but it's a possible way. And but otherwise, if this VAT is mandatory, the deal will make you a bankrupt, because you will have to pay millions in about 5 years. In any case, I think there should be some fixed and constant interest rates. In this case, officially it will refer to the group of commercial credits, but in fact it will work as a Murabaha deal. We have assessed the prospects of partner banking development in Tatarstan Republic and delivered a special meeting on that subject. We have summed up results of our work, and I hope to continue. Thank you. And one more region. Let me give the floor to the representative of Chechen Republic. They joined our work last year. They were very active. Now let's find out about their achievements. We were actively involved, in fact. We were invited by the central bank, and we participated in the start-up meeting. Here is a colleague who present here, who acted as a coordinator of this work in Chechnya. There were problems and bottlenecks on our way. And initially, we even faced problem with opening an account in the savings bank, Sberbank of Russia. And we first failed because local Sberbank branch in Chechnya did not know how to work with that in that format. One of the participants of our work was Amana microcrediting company. And let me now share our experience. I hope that we will gain some positive achievements in 2017. But actually, we started in 2015 when we reached an agreement with Sheikh of Abu Dhabi and with the Khalif Fund. Khalif Foundation funds medium and small business, so they allocated some funding to Chechnya, and we set up a branch of that company in Chechnya. Right now, we're in the process of obtaining the central bank permit, and they need to assign the status of a microfinancing organization to this branch company. Mainly, the company will focus on traditional micro-lending and will start with interest-free deals and then introduce some low-interest deals. There are few banks each in Chechnya at the moment, the central bank branch and the agricultural bank. You should have more. We're working on that now. This is the current situation. But a few words about positive achievements. We have reserved a part of this credit portfolio, and we will disburse loans in compliance with the Sharia laws and Islamic principles. The pilot project We've introduced loans with 2.5 interest rates. The fund also delivers some educational programs. They train small and medium entrepreneurs and raise awareness of Islamic banking and its principles. Many people are reluctant to take loans with high interest rates. Most people are after cheap loans. Moreover, they are often unwilling to repay it. Certainly, people would be interested to receive interest-free loans. Unfortunately, consumer lending in Chechnya is facing some negative trends. For instance, many people do not repay loans at all. This branch of Khalif Foundation in Chechnya will be named after Sheikh Zaida, and we should educate people, especially entrepreneurs, and highlight the issues like taking loans, repaying loans, interest rates, and so on. And we would like to cover all population of Chechnya and especially Muslim believers. Thank you. Thank you for sticking to time frames, and we have one presentation left. But still, I have a question to this speaker. You are a specialist in Islamic finance, and you are aware of all important events in Russia. What's your view on development of Islamic finance in Russia? Is it active enough or too slow? What's lacking? And two more questions which are related to our agenda. What is the current direction of legislative changes in the banking sector? Is it the way of small adjustments to laws or taking new laws? And what's the way to, what's the role of state regulation in this sector? Well, good morning to you all, and let me greet now Magomet and Bekkhan, our moderators. Our session now has become a tradition. It's a good tradition of Gaidar Forum. Today is Saturday, which is supposed to be a day off, but still we can see many people here. It's our normal audience, and as usual, I'm very happy to meet my colleagues and friends. The first speakers mentioned 2016 achievements, and they enlisted lots of federal and regional activities. But let's look globally at the subject. Unfortunately, we have lost our chance in 2016. We have not undertaken any new achievement, any new initiatives. And today, most people focused on Kazakhstan and it really may become a regional hub of Islamic finance, especially Astana. And so the global investment community may support it. In March 2016, and exactly on the 15th of March, and many of our today's speakers were present there. So they all participated in a big forum on Islamic finance. We discussed it, and we wanted to declare current initiatives underway in Russia. But in the end of 2016, most of our international partners did not want to sum up our achievements, were unwilling to declare that. So we mainly do technical work. And they were not ready for big statements and declaration. Indeed, in 2016, we focused on technical work. But we can compare our achievements in 2016 to 2010 achievements. And we certainly have progressed dramatically. And I think we're moving in the right direction. Russia has a different situation as compared to Kazakhstan. So the recent 6 years have been the stage of creating our practices and methods. And now, as you can see, some companies have already reported their results. But if we had done more practical work, and if we had had a workable and operational model, we would have achieved much more. And in my view, the right way is to develop our work through the so-called Islamic windows in other banks. And that was my initial proposal. This could be done in Moscow, in the Caucasus, and in other regions. This has not taken place so far, but I hope it will be so. So far, the Savings Bank is taking some very careful steps. But I think eventually they will offer a very advanced product line. What are the global trends currently? Last year, the volume of issued sukuk was quite small. And this year, we hope that the volume will be growing. According to experts, in late 2017, the Islamic market will be represented by $2.7 trillion and $2.7 trillion. And this is a big volume, and this is not a bubble, but real economic figures. This is certainly not a bubble, because Islamic banks are never involved in usury or speculations. And on the other hand, this figure is quite realistic. And so this $2.7 trillion of Islamic finance volume, I think this is a very significant figure. we can compare it to the general economic turnover. A few words about laws. Some people now are proposing minor changes in laws and regs, depending on what particular banks need. We should prioritize, I think, foreign investment. This is needed, but many people think so. But I disagree fully, because this is a big mistake. Certainly, many services are required by the population, but in any case, I think that all investment should be directed at development of national economies, including the sector of halal food. A few words about halal food. There are about 400 companies actively working here, and so as we have about 7 financial companies now, but many halal companies. We have about 400 certified manufacturers of halal food.
That's the volume of the economy that the finances of halal industry, if they're taken together, that would amount to huge amount of funds that the Muslim depositors could see in the development of the economy. Since there are many banks which are deprived of their licenses, the people at large do not have much trust to banks, despite their trust to standard banks, to traditional banks, is going down every day. Unfortunately, that is true about not only minor banks, but with major banks with billion rubles of turnover. Speaking about our banks, over 100 billion rubles of turnover, people start looking for an alternative. And we have spoken a lot about alternatives. I just came back from Kabardino-Balkaria and Karacháyevo-Cherkessia, where I met with my colleagues, and as soon as they found out that I'm dealing with Islamic finance, when they keep asking, when shall we have it, when can we start? Certainly, there should be the first awareness, so everybody believes that it's free money and that this credit needn't be repaid. Actually, people do not know what is Islamic financial product. They don't know how to treat it. They have a feeling that something is happening, something is being done. Unfortunately, mass media, when speaking about Islamic finances and bans, do not put it into the economy sector, but they put it into religion sector. This attitude has to be changed. We are talking about finances when we speak about Islamic. Now use the word partnership finance. The main word is finance. It's the real sector, it's the economy, real sector, real turnover. Unfortunately, despite the fact that at regional level, Caucasian regions, the Volga regions are raising this issue, and there is a working group at the central bank. And in December, we had our event held there. Even there, they tend to discuss technical issues. But certainly, I welcome the photos showed by Mr. Zaripov. So in any country, Islamic finance starts with political will. We can meet every year and we can keep meeting each other and talk, and it's nice to see each other, to embrace each other, to listen to somebody else's results, but we are moving at a snail's pace. The world did not even notice that Russia has been doing something along these lines in 2016. The IFN CIS event without Russia will be held in Astana on March 14, hosting CIS countries. We shall discuss the development of this topic in all CIS countries and how Russia could participate in it. Over the entire CIS space, Russian economy is the largest one. When we had deflation, automatically all CIS countries felt it, and automatically they got the same results. Therefore, the economy of Russia is very important for the Muslim world. It's very significant. And our brothers Kazakhs who start working in the European Economic Union, they are financial capital, and they start offering themselves as a mediator between the Russian economy and the Asian countries' economy. Did I answer all the questions? Okay. Unfortunately, we should wind up our event because we have used our time limit and we will have to leave the premises in a few minutes. Unfortunately, it's 10:10. One question is allowed to a lady. From a lady. Good afternoon. It was very interesting to listen to all of you. I am from the Institute of Social and Political Research of the Russian Academy of Sciences. I'm a scientist, not just a woman, as you said. My question is, so in this audience we are men and women, but we are specialists, all of us. My question is, this is a question to anyone who can answer it. It's clear that the Muslim world, unfortunately, is losing the battle to the Christian world in the domain of science. Well, oil and gas will run out sometime. Malaysia is a country without oil and gas, but so it is put brains at their stake. So they use the funds correctly for development of science and technology. Given this situation, the Islamic Bank of Development, does it intend to create a foundation for grants, for subsidies, for development of research projects and such like? Any scholarships to talented students, is it possible? Who can answer? I can say, actually the Muslim world, if we speak about Islamic finance and economy, they propose a lot of grants to be taught in Malaysia and the Emirates and other countries. Many of our students do study there. Speaking about the number of people who are involved into Islamic finances and economy, about 2 or 3 years in Tatarstan was only 60, but now every university conducts a lot of research. St. Petersburg Legal University has conducted serious research as for how the British and Roma German law can be transferred to our country, and our students go abroad to study and they get back. In my foundation, nearly everybody, NCR Center operating in Malaysia, so they were trained there. So the critical mass of people does exist. So we already have this critical mass. We are not in a situation like we were 5 to 6 years ago. The situation is absolutely different now. And in order to get more grants, to improve relations at different levels, in science, in financing and other things with the Muslim world. The Muslim world waits from Russia specific signals, specific signs that we are prepared to do this and that and that. As now everything is conducted on the voluntary private basis. Sorry, colleagues. So we are very short of time. So let's suggest Sergei Pakhomov to say a few words. A small comment. Thank you very much for the invitation. Salam alaikum. This discussion brought me back 8 to 9 years ago. In Moscow, we have been working actively on the possibility of issuing sukuk. We worked with the Eastern investors, with a number of Western banks, with HBC, that was the leader along those lines at that time. We were very favorably accepted in the East, in Saudi Arabia, in the Middle East, the Dubai Financial Center, and they were ready to provide their services. But we failed to do anything. For one very simple reason. The budget legislation in Russia, and everybody will come across it, with the potential issues. There should be the coverage of the expenses from the budget. You can't single out a stream from the budget. It's legally impossible. This is legally impossible now. And that closes entrance to sukuk market for sovereign issues that are outside the Islamic world. Well, Great Britain tried to do something to issue a sovereign sukuk issue. They declared London to be the center of Islamic finance. They could not change the legislation and to issue such sovereign loan. That was a good idea, and they support it. I believe that our corporations, major corporations, have possibilities, have a desire, have a need to issue sukuk. What are the obstacles here? The sales of assets. That's the major obstacle in the legal structure that our corporations will also encounter. Creating a special legal entity in Russia to whom you can sell assets and then get them back for leasing is virtually impossible. Setting one abroad, how to make a transfer? Well, in principle, if we manage to change legislation, and I think the current international situation will favor it, so the financial sanctions imposed by the U.S. on financial institutions that will buy Russian debt, sovereign debt, etc., and to third parties which operated them, that will push our issuers to look for new sources of funding. Thank you, Sergei Borisovich. Moreover, the Islamic world is outside the application of sanctions. Thank you. Let's wind up. Colleagues, we are closing our session. Thank you very much. No, don't get up. I thank everybody. Special thanks to Erlan, who came from Kazakhstan. Special thanks to Murat for your public activities and charity. We thank our guests, Oksana Porfirich. It was nice to have you with us. Hopefully you'll stay with us. Thank you. You can come up after the session to ask your questions in the couloirs. So the speakers are at your disposal.